It happened around 1:13 a.m. I was smoking outside my duplex, kind of close to the road so I could get a better view of the moon that night. It was a bright, waning crescent. All of the houses were dark little silhouettes. The suburbs' street lamps gently coated our neighborhood road in pale yellow. The only lit house was at the bottom of the hill, the Moretti mansion. I don't know who the Morettis were, but they often had acquaintances visiting from out of town. Family parties, that sort of thing. From my distance as their nearest neighbor, I could just barely make out the mansion's windows. Blurry meshes of people mingling at some kind of late-night soiree. I remember savoring my smoke, thinking about how nice it must be to have such a close-knit family, and wondering what kind of Italian food the Morettis could have been sharing, when all of a sudden, flash. Blinding white tendrils of light, they erupted from the mansion's middle like a burst of ball lightning, or the birth of a star. My entire body flinched. I braced myself against the nearest mailbox, and before I could even halfway begin to understand what was going on, the bright light vanished. And so did every single person inside the house. It was quite alarming, to say the least. Only the building remained, with all of its indoor lamps now illuminating barren doorways, empty patios, and unoccupied floors. Every single person was gone. It's like some unknowable thing had hit delete on everyone inside. The cigarette fell right out of my mouth. I sprinted to my own house and grabbed binoculars from the front closet. After running down the street to get a better vantage, my binoculars told me what my eyes already knew. All the people at the Morettis were truly gone. Gone. And not even just their lively conversations and selves, but all the cars in the house's driveway were gone too. All of the coat racks inside, empty. In fact, most of the furnishings inside the house appeared missing. I could only make out bare white walls. No paintings, no calendars, no clocks. The whole thing had been gutted clean. I must have spied on the place for about 20 minutes, tiptoeing closer and then edging back when I lost my nerve. It was hard to know what I was supposed to do. Waking up my wife and getting her to run to the middle of the street felt like a pretty ridiculous proposition, but I needed someone else to see it. I needed to convince myself I wasn't crazy. Half dazed and with her sleeping mask still on her forehead, Amy begrudgingly agreed to come take a look. But when I tried to point out the glowing, empty house down at the bottom of the hill, I was suddenly pointing at darkness. Their lights had turned off. You couldn't really make out any of the house innards or surroundings anymore. Amy was confused. I angled her binoculars and tried to point at the lack of furniture and life inside. "They're asleep," Amy groaned. "Their lights are off. What are you talking about?" I did my best to explain what had happened, but Amy was tired. We went back to bed. The next day, after dropping Amy off at work, the first thing I did was drive back to the Moretti mansion. Strangely, in the morning light, things looked normal. I slowly drove down to the end of the cul-de-sac, and I could see an old Cadillac parked in the Moretti driveway. Through the kitchen windows, I spotted a couple family members gathering for some kind of breakfast or lunch. It wasn't empty at all. I pulled a big U-turn at the end of the road, driving fairly slow. In my rearview mirror, I watched the house to see if anyone twisted their head in my direction. No one did. Because I was curious, I pulled another U-turn and drove right back towards the mansion. None of the profiles in the kitchen seemed to care. I drove a donut, just sort of absent-mindedly kept my wheel turned left, and drove at 5 miles per hour, watching the Moretti house to see if they would react. They didn't. I gave a honk, 2 honks, 3. Not a single person in the house seemed to be disturbed. Okay. I parked my car and stood at the end of their driveway. Through the neighborhood silence, I could hear some faint voices inside the house immersed in conversation. A tink from someone dropping cutlery on a plate. How is this possible? How can I hear them from out here? And yet, they can't hear me out here? What may have been against my better judgment, I walked through their front gate, drifted up their little brick path, and knocked on the mahogany door. 3 solid whaps. I really didn't have anything to say, other than did something happen last night? Or is everything okay? But I figured it wouldn't hurt to try. 10 requisite seconds went by, then 30, and then footsteps. The door opened about a hand's width. A gold chain went taut at the top of the crack. "Vai via subito," a large Italian barked at me. "You going to do this every day?" I took a few steps back. "I'm sorry, what?" "Per carita." The man slapped his forehead. "I don't want to see you here again, you understand?" I shrunk away, really confused. Sorry, I just thought that—" "We call cops, go away," he yelled, slamming the door. I staggered back with my hands up. My stagger quickly turned into a stumble. My stumble turned into a trip. And then I sailed right into the Moretti's Cadillac. But instead of colliding with cold hard metal and breaking my nose, I kept falling until my ass hit concrete. And only concrete. I rubbed my backside. What the hell? Right beside me, the Cadillac was still parked. My chin may be 2 feet away from its door handle. I reached to touch the black shiny handle and witnessed my fingers travel through the metal, like it wasn't really there. What? I swatted my other hand reflexively and watched it phase through the tire. First the house, and now this. Through the front window, I could still see the family sitting down for a meal around their dining room. A mother, a grandma, and perhaps 3 children. None of them were reacting to my fall or my earlier knocking. Everyone seemed to be on a sort of autopilot, and their car wasn't even real. What the fuck? Without a second to lose, I bolted back to my vehicle and tore up the street. A raw, all-pervading chill clenched my shoulders and neck. It had been a long time since I had felt that frightened. Amy was worn out from a full day of nursing. She was stuck in that delightful in-between state of being exhausted but still running on coffee jitters. I promised I wouldn't disturb her sleep again like last night, and made us a simple pasta dinner. Over the course of our meal, I tried to keep the subject on all the writing I was trying to accomplish. I'm a teacher, and I was on my summer break. But of course, 3 bites in, I couldn't help but share all the disquieting blips in reality down the road. Amy was dubious. "You think the Moretti house was replaced last night?" "Yes. I think there's some kind of elaborate effort to make the house appear normal from the outside. But it's not the same house anymore." Amy took a long sip of her wine. "Okay. So I think I should reach out to the neighborhood watch people, or the police, or maybe the fire department. I should tell someone." Although my wife was generally polite, her exhaustion had carved her words rather pointed. "Milton, no one is going to believe you." "What?" "Because I don't believe you." "You don't?" "Last night when you showed me the mansion, everyone was asleep, and today it sounds like you were yelled at by an Italian guy, and then bonked your head on his car." "But I'm telling you I didn't bonk my head. The car was like a mirage. I fell right through it." "Yes, but come on, Milton, that's ridiculous." "But it's true, I'm telling you. I'll take you there tomorrow, I can show you." "Milton, no." "What?" "I don't want to go there. I don't want people to think we're crazy." "Well, we have to do something about it." Amy tilted her gaze. "Do we? Don't we?" She twirled a long piece of spaghetti and watched it curl over itself like a yarn ball. Last December in E-Word, we had a pair of hikers explore a cave they weren't supposed to. They both needed ventilators. And just last week, we had a senior resident decide it would be a fun idea to try his grandson's skateboard. Broke his ribs and collar. "I don't understand," I said. "Some things should be left well enough alone. Whatever delusion you're having, just ignore it. You're probably seeing things." "Seeing things?" "Milton, last night you dragged my ass out of bed to point at a dark mansion. I got 2 hours sleep and—" "I know, and I'm sorry about that, but I swear I still saw—" "And just why the hell were you out that late?" I bit my lip. The truth was, my writing wasn't going great. I didn't even have a name for the project. A good working title could have been Writer's Block and Nighttime Cigarettes. "Amy, I was doing story stuff in my head. I find it easier outside when I'm stuck." "Yeah, well, the rest of us still work in the morning." I know, because the rest of society still needs to function, so maybe don't wake us up with your nicotine-fueled creative writing hallucinations. So maybe that, okay? I rolled up some spaghetti and took a bite. I wasn't going to push it. Amy was tired, and this was going to be my own thing. We tried to veg out like a normal couple, so we watched a quick episode of The Office before bed. Steve Carell's droll dialogue always worked like a Pavlovian bell for sleepy time. At least it did for Amy. My mind was still racing on my pillow. I was second-guessing myself more and more. Am I going crazy? Is it daytime dreaming? Does schizophrenia run in my family? No. What I saw was real. I know it was. What I should have done is recorded any one of the strange blips with my phone. I could have easily recorded my hand swatting through the hologram car. That's exactly it. Evidence like that would be irrefutable. And so, around 2:15, I slipped out of bed, put on my jacket, and marched into the warm July night. Was I being impulsive? Yes. Was I being stupid? Probably. But since sleep wasn't on the menu, I knew I would feel so much better if I got a video to prove to myself that I wasn't going insane. It was particularly dark out. The sky was a moonless blanket of velvet smothering our suburbs' meek yellow streetlights. My old Canon lens hardly reflected anything. I figured a camera with a proper lens couldn't hurt, and I was right, because almost immediately I noticed the Moretti house was lit. Their parlor was aglow with the silhouettes of many guests. When I was halfway down the hill, I stealthily snapped some photos. Videos. It had the vibes of a late after-hours party. Guests were all either leaning or sitting, each with a wineglass in hand. I couldn't spot the same family members that I saw in the morning, but it's possible they were out of view. I snuck along the shadows until I reached the Moretti front yard. My plan was to record my palm phasing through the Cadillac, but as soon as I got closer, I could see there was no Cadillac. Wasn't there a car there a second ago? I took a long, sober stare as I reached their property line. Nope, no cars at all. Great, I thought, maybe I am going crazy. And so I hit record on my camera and held it at waist height. I'm going to capture everything from here on out. I stood. I stared. I waited. For way too long. It was close to 3 in the morning. I was in all dark clothes. If I tried to get any closer to the house, someone could very well think I'm a burglar. But could they even see me? I walked closer, lowered my camera, and clapped my hands. No reaction. I smacked the railing along their fence, which made a loud metal twang. No reaction. Nothing. It was the same as before. As if the people inside the building were all either unilaterally deaf or on some kind of bizarre autopilot. Okay, I thought, same unprovable situation. Fuck, what am I doing here? I should just go. I should just go, right? And I almost turned to leave. But then I proceeded to grip the railing, hop the fence, flank the house, and enter the backyard. No, there's gotta be something. People have to know about this. It was a strange, overly busy garden, one that you'd probably need a team of landscapers for. There were bird baths, trellises, and long green vines snaking across wooden arches. I quickly ran my hand along nearby leaves and bushes, filming myself, checking to see if all of this was real. I touched a flower pot, nudged a shovel. They all had the touch and feel of dense, actual things. I could still see the guests inside from the back window and watched the same after-hours party seemingly stuck on repeat. What am I supposed to do? Sneak in? Catch them unaware? I kept recording my hand as it touched things in the garden, watching through the little viewfinder, hunting anomalies. There was a marble statue of a male figure in the middle of the yard. It looked like something hauled out of Rome. I tapped the statue's chest and quickly discovered my first anomaly. It felt hot. The texture was hard to describe, like freshly printed paper. I delicately touched the statue again, leaning into its strange heat. On camera, I was able to capture my finger making a very slight indentation in the middle of its solar plexus, And then, before I could pull back, the statue grabbed my throat. Quick, impervious arms enwrapped me. The chokehold was so tight, it hurt to draw breath. The camera fell out of my hands. The statue started to walk. The statue started to walk? I was forced to follow, my toes barely touching the earth. It heaved me across the garden. My camera swayed along its strap, aimed at the ground. The back doors of the mansion opened on their own. "Ah," I wheezed out. The statue steered me with its arms. Its hot fingers could easily crush my throat. It marched me inside the Moretti house where I could see something was wrong. Very wrong. Instead of furniture and Italian decor, the entire inside was white grids. Each of the ceilings, walls, and floors were all composed of small white squares with faint blue outlines, like graph paper from math class. Without ceremony, the statue let me go onto the middle of the floor. My knees shot out in pain. I scrambled up to run, but the door behind us sealed shut. Now the entire space was doorless, windowless. Everything felt unnaturally lit by these grids. I glanced at my hand. It was evenly lit from all sides. No shadows anywhere. Where the fuck am I? Out from a hidden corner, more statues appeared. Some of their body types corresponded with the party guests I had seen earlier, except they clearly weren't human guests. They were just smooth, marble white copies of the guests. "Please don't hurt me." My words echoed through the grid room. There was something terrifyingly infinite about this space. A white statue with a large gut and pudgy face came up to me. I realized it had the exact same shape and stature of the Italian man who yelled at me. Despite his face having no texture, I could still see the template lips curve into a smile. "You do not belong here." His previous accent had disappeared. It was like some cosmic text-to-speech machine was feeding him words. "No, I don't," I whispered. "Please don't hurt me." The pudgy template man shrugged. A feminine template in the back asked, "Why would we hurt you?" I recoiled, moving away from all of them. My hands touched the hot, papery grid walls. I tried to slink away. "We would never hurt you. You are one of us. We would never hurt you." I reached a corner of the house, and suddenly the white tiles developed color. Like a growing stain, the entire space started rendering a wooden floor, brown baseboards, and cream wallpaper. No, but this is... In 2 more blinks of an eye, I was standing in my own hallway. I could see my Costco calendar hung above the stairway. I recognized my slippers on the floor. No, this isn't right. I was suddenly outside of my bedroom. I clawed at the handle and opened the door, looking for a way out of this. And of course, that's where I saw it. There, lying in bed, was a perfect white template model, resembling Amy. In about half a second, her pajamas and skin tone rendered into place. She yawned, stirred a little, and looked up at me. "Milton?" I bolted away and explored the rest of the house. It was all too familiar. Down to apples in the fridge and mouse droppings behind my couch. This was an exact replica of the duplex I had lived in for the last 6 years. "Everything okay?" Amy called. I told her that I was shaken by a nightmare, and, in a sense, I wasn't lying. This was a nightmare. Everything I had ever known was some kind of farce, some kind of simulation I didn't understand. Even when I left my house to inspect outside, I was still on top of the hill, looking down at the Moretti mansion. It's like I had teleported. It's like reality had rearranged itself to fool me. I didn't want Amy to think I was even more unhinged than before, so I told her nothing. I couldn't trust her anyway. Was she even real? It was too big of a madness to share with anyone, so I kept it to myself. For weeks, I've kept this to myself. I've gone through phases where I've just laid in bed at home, pretending to be sick, unable to process what I had seen. The template people and their white grid world are behind everything. I couldn't get it out of my head. My pretend wife asked about my upcoming pretend job teaching pretend children, and I gave a pretend answer. Yes, I'm looking forward to sculpting some new minds this year. But aren't their minds already sculpted? Isn't everything already pre-rendered and determined somehow? Isn't everything just a charade? There were nights where I tried to peel back the skin on my arms, just to see if there was any white, papery marble inside of me too. I couldn't find anything, only blood and pain. For a time, I used to keep my camera on my desk as a reminder, to keep myself sober about these events. I had never once watched the footage from my encounters that night, but I knew the truth was recorded on a little SD card in my Canon DSLR. And then one morning, I deleted the footage. I deleted the footage without ever having reviewed it. I deleted the only piece of evidence I had. Months have gone by and now I'm back teaching at school. All the peachy, fresh-skinned faces, and all the tests and homework to review, and all the dumb Gen Z jokes flying over my head. It all forged into a nice, wonderful reminder that life needs distractions, that we should keep ourselves busy being social and surrounded by others. Distractions are good. They're great, in fact. Most recently, I've broken through my writer's block. I think it's helped to write this whole story out so I could get it out of my system. The key was finding the right title. Once I had the title, everything just started to flow. Some things should be left well enough alone. It's got that great guiding principle feel to it. I've been repeating it back to Amy almost every day like a mantra. It helps me get by. They're words to live by, I say. Words to live by. Hello there. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the story and the message at the end? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. As always, stay creepy, and I'll see you in the next story.